guest to you. Tammy Wilson, amazing woman, has an incredible story. So Tammy, I just want you to pop on here, introduce yourself, let everyone know where you're from, and then give them that infamous snapshot on what life was like prior to starting and where you are now.
Okay. So I'm Tammy Wilson. I live in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, which for those of you who don't know, a little bit north of Tulsa. What brought me here is a few years, well, I've had several cases of COVID. I'll start off by just saying that I was early in 2020, had my first case of COVID, and I've actually had 4 cases of COVID since then. But with each case, I was getting worse and worse. And I actually was placed on medical leave by my employer because I developed microvascular blood clots in my brain and in my lungs. Those blood clots interfered with everything. I mean, I had problems breathing. I had widespread pain. I had problems with my peripheral vision, so I was unable to drive for about 6 months. I had severe fatigue. I mean, I was truly napping 2 to 3 times a day, and then not sleeping well at night, just never sleeping well. My brain just felt crazy. I mean, I couldn't have a rational thought in my head. It was just a terrible thing. The brain fog was so severe, I wouldn't even call it brain fog. It literally felt like something was, altering the blood flow in my brain. But I started having cognitive difficulties, daily migraines, and life was just terrible.
And not to interrupt you, Tammy, but on everything that you've just described, I don't want to leave this out, which is a medical history of systemic lupus and asthma. On top of all of that, I think everyone needs to know that.
Yes, absolutely.
That's incredible. Continue. I just want to make sure we got that in.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess I've always been immune compromised, and maybe that's why it hit me so hard when I had the cases of COVID. But one day I was on Facebook, and I actually saw a post that a friend of mine for many years had posted, and I kind of watched her for a little while, and I thought, okay, this couldn't be as good as she says it is. But I think at that point, I had almost lost hope. I was seeing 7 different specialists for everything that I had wrong with me, and I wasn't getting better. The medications they gave me would mask some symptoms, but then create new ones. It was a nightmare. So I called. I actually reached out to Lisa on Facebook and said, hey, I want to hear more about this, but I'm very skeptical because I just came from 18 years in the pharmaceutical industry. So I had a hard time believing that light therapy worked. So I ended up buying several months' supply, and I thought, you know what? I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting better. This might be my last chance for hope. And, I kept getting this little tug from God to reach out to her. I mean, for months I had this little tug, and finally I did it. And I'm glad I did. Very first day I got the patches, I woke up with a migraine. I put the patches on the way Lisa described. I actually put on X39 and Eon. I put them on the way she described. And literally within 5 minutes, I could feel it working. I felt this weird sensation going up my neck. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's something going on here. And within a very short time, my migraine was totally gone. That night, I slept better than I had since 2019. And I thought, you know what? There's something to this. There's really something to this. Within my first month, all of my joint inflammation had disappeared and my chronic pain had stopped. I literally had pain and inflammation in every joint of my body. By month 2, my migraines were non-existent. I mean, these were migraines that would last for weeks on end. And, I couldn't even go outside the entire month of July one year. I could not even go outside because between the heat and the light, even with glasses on, I couldn't stand the light. By month 3, my chest pain was gone. And one thing that I forgot to mention, and I apologize, because of everything going on, I actually had pericarditis. So the pericarditis was not getting better until I started the patches. So by month 3, my chest pain was gone, and I started exercising again, which I hadn't for a while because I was so weak. And my skin started looking better by month 3, which I was excited about, kind of a nice benefit there. By month 4, I was actually walking 3 to 5 miles a day, which was almost unheard of because of my difficulty breathing. And things just kept getting better and better. By month 6, my mental clarity had it was much better. I could actually multitask without forgetting what I was doing. And a month later, all of my neurological signs were gone, like all the tinglies that I had were gone. My migraines had, were gone a couple months before that. But, and sorry, I'm trying to look at my notes too to make sure I'm not missing anything.
You know what? I'm looking at them too. Go ahead. It's okay.
So I had a hip replacement in 2019, and I had some pretty severe nerve damage in my left leg. And I could start to feel tinglies around that incision where I had nerve damage by month 8. Wow. So I actually had nerves starting to reconnect. By month 9, I was feeling better than I had in years. Definitely pre-COVID, but I want to say that I felt better than I had in 10 years. And then month 10, I had a follow-up with the cardiologist. And when the cardiologist saw the patch on my neck and started inquiring, and I told him that it was a patch that increased copper peptide, his eyes lit up. And he said, "Tammy, targeting peptides is the wave of the future." He goes, "You keep doing what you're doing." But all of my cardiology things cleared up. My resting heart rate was really high post-COVID. It actually got to a normal level. My blood pressure was down. My EKG was back to normal. I mean, it was amazing. And the doctor was so happy that I had found these.
Wow. You know what? I've heard you talk about this. We've talked about it. You've been on other calls. You've described all of this. And every time I hear it, it's amazing. But let's kind of, you've now been patching for what? About 15 months?
15 months. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I love to point that out to everybody. And we'll also hear from the other ladies as well, is this is not an overnight thing, and Dr. Stacy, I know, is going to touch on that. It is something that progressively begins to give the body the opportunity to get back to doing what it did when we were younger.